B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim to our Stump the Rabbi number 100. Baruch HaShem Ishtabach Shemol Ad. 100 shiurim in this specific series of giving a little bit of Torah, Divrei Torah, and then answering your questions where you guys ask the questions and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us the answers, BeEzrat HaShem. So just imagine if the average shiur has 10 questions or more, you have Baruch HaShem shiurim with 1,000 or more answers throughout all of the shiurim, addressing all types of topics, both ashkafic, halachic issues, Baruch Hashem. The shiur tonight will be for a refuah shlema for Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Sarah Frumit bat Hendel Miriam, Hinda Chaya bat Karna, Chaim Akiva ben Hinda Esther, Rivka bat Sarah, Tinok ben Rivka, Talia bat Sarah, Orit bat Ilana, Talia bat Sarah, Yitro ben Avraham, David ben Esriya, Doris bat Joah, Joshua ben Noach, Alex ben Noach, and also for Hatzlacha Rabba for Ayla bat Marsha, Marsha bat Julie, Samuel ben Marsha, Cephas ben Marsha, Alexander ben Marsha, Louis ben Marsha, Shaul ben Farzane, Reuven Chaim ben Pala Parel, also for Zivug Agun, and Netanel Yosef ben Avraham, also for Zivug Agun, and for all of Am Yisrael, for Hatzlacha Rabba, and a most critical and time-sensitive Hatzlacha Rabba for Rudy, Rochman, Andrew, Noam, Leibman, Edouard, David, Benaym. So Baruch Hashem, we have in all of Am Yisrael, all of the righteous Noahides that continue to help us and support us. Baruch Hashem, we have lots of interesting things to talk about. But I'm going to start with a extremely important message to all of my students, all of my friends, all of the Jewish people and non-Jewish people that watch our lectures, know our efforts to bring good to the world, to bring Torah to the world, especially the community in Nigeria, especially the Jews that love HaKadosh Baruch Hu and His people. I want to ask all of you for a very, very big favor. Right now, if whether you know or you don't know, there is a group of young men, first started by Rudy Rochman, and then his team, Andrew, Noam, Leibman, and Edouard, David, Benaym. These young people went to Nigeria in order to film a documentary about the Jewish people of Nigeria. There is an enormous community of Jews there. I'm very familiar with, Baruch Hashem, I have hundreds and hundreds of students from Nigeria. We've sent thousands of CDs over there and different material over the years. I'm in touch with quite a few of them over the years, and throughout the last several years, Baruch Hashem made some very good friends and very good students. Now, these young men, these Rudy and Andrew and Edouard, decided that they're going to go to document these Nigerian Jews, these Igbo Jews, that the world doesn't really, or at least the Western society, doesn't know very much about. And they wanted to show the world that there are Jews in different countries that perhaps the world is not familiar with. Now, unfortunately, Rudy and his friends did not know that apparently the world does not necessarily always agree with what you think is important. The politics in the world are not always known to you, nor are they, appealing to this type of work. And what ended up happening is that Rudy and his friends got arrested by the Nigerian government and are now in prison. Hashem Yishmor v'Yatzil. This, Rabotai Yekarim, is a issue of Pikuach Nefesh. This is 100% Pikuach Nefesh. And for anyone that has watched my shurim over the years, whether you live in Nigeria or the surrounding cities and countries, or you live in Israel, or you live in the US, or you live in England, or you live in Australia, or Austria, or Istanbul, or the students that I have in Abu Dhabi and Iran even. I'm begging all of you to stop doing nothing. Stop doing nothing. The time to act is right now. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Bechvodo Be'atzmo, gave us a test. And this test, Rabotai, is a test for all of us to see if we're going to unite or we're simply going to sit there and do nothing while one of our group, a few of our people are going to get murdered, are going to get imprisoned for life, which is virtually murder. Are we going to do nothing about it? Right now, these young guys are in prison. They're not in prison in Israel. They're not in prison in America. They're not in prison in a place that's favorable to people like them. And the reality is that their lives are 100% at risk. A bigger risk than anything any of us can imagine. And if nothing is done by each and every single one of us, their blood will be on our hands. Why? The reality is, Rabotai, is that everyone can share the messages and say, oh, look, there is Rudy got in trouble. Oh, look, Rudy got arrested. Oh, look, such and such is in the... Great. What's that going to do? Nothing. Nothing. What we need to do, Rabotai Karim, is not just spread the message, but get both the religious and the political leaders of our communities, both Jews and Gentiles, to make public statements, to write letters appealing to the Nigerian government that this is simply a misunderstanding. These guys were not coming to delve into the Nigerian politics, to stick their noses where it doesn't belong. They were simply coming to a country, looking to do a documentary about people that are of the same religion as them, same belief system as them. That's it. Even though Rudy wants to talk about politics in regards to Zionism, in regards to Israel and things of that nature, that has nothing to do, absolutely nothing to do with Nigeria and their battle that they have in their own country, and their own people, and their own political issues, that we leave it for them to manage. It's not our business. And unfortunately, he was viewed as a threat. His group was viewed as a threat by mistake. Simple. He's a harmless young kid. I don't agree with his views on a lot of different things, but he is 100% part of our people, which we love and we're crying for. And I've spent most of my day today making phone calls and sending messages to all of the contacts I can possibly reach in Nigeria and other places that can help. Because Rabotai Karim, the time to act is now, and it's not just to pray. It's not just to share the article that was in the New York Post. The time is to get every single rabbi, wherever he's located, every single politician, wherever he's located, every single businessman, every single person that has any influence whatsoever, even if the influence is literally over 15 or 20 people, or 15 or 20,000 people, or 15 or 20 million people. Every single person has to reach out to these people and get them to write a letter, get them to make a phone call, get them to connect with the Nigerian government and explain to them that these young boys do not belong there. It's a mistake. Please release them and kick them out of the country. Simple. No documentary, no babkes. Just get them out of there. Simple. Rabotai Karim, sometimes we think that everyone is like us, that we can stick our nose where it doesn't belong, and everyone is just going to agree with it. Doesn't work like that with Judaism. If you're going to do a documentary on lions, you could do a documentary on lions anywhere. If you could if you want to do a documentary on fish, go do a documentary on fish anywhere. You want to go do a documentary on the sand or on the butterflies, you could do a documentary wherever you want. But if you're going to do a documentary on Jewish people, you have to understand this is not exactly your backyard. You can't just go. Judaism is not just a religion, it's a political battle. And anytime you're going to get your nose where it doesn't belong, you're opening the door for the Satan himself, and you have a very serious problem if you don't have a lot of merits in your account. Right now, Rabotai, we have a few of our own in Pikuach Nefesh, 100% life risk. Why do I say life risk? They're not telling them they're going to kill them or anything like that. That's because it's only the early stages. It literally just happened. If these things are not addressed immediately, then what ends up happening is that begins a sort of a entitlement mentality, an ego, I am right, some type of a battle, a mental battle that unfortunately is typically ends with blood or something close to it. You have to understand, Rabotai, this is a very serious issue, and every single person that is in position of power, that's in position of leadership, in a Jewish people or otherwise, has to make phone calls. So for all of my students, all of my friends, all of my fans, and even all of my enemies, I am simply begging you, do everything you can and everything above what you can to connect with the Nigerian government, to connect with someone that can connect to the Nigerian government, to make public statements and simply apologize on the behalf of Rudy, apologize on the behalf of Andrew, apologize on the behalf of Edouard, apologize on the behalf of Am Yisrael, that we simply went into a place unprepared, that we simply didn't belong there. Get them out of this place. Get them out of there. Get them out of prison. They have no business being there. Obviously, if a Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted a documentary over there, somebody else would have done it. There's no need for documentaries. There's need for life. And unfortunately, Rabotai, sometimes the ambition inside each one of us takes us to a place the Torah doesn't want us to be. Even though there's a lot of really good people in Nigeria, both Jews and Gentiles, the reality is there is a lot of issues that us in the Western society, we're sitting on our big couches and local supermarkets that deliver all the way to your house. That stuff doesn't necessarily always work in every country. Not everybody lives this way. And the mentality is different, and the political issues are different. Here in America, you could pretty much curse out the president and nothing's going to happen. You could do whatever you want in so many words. Some of these people are destroying stores and nothing happens to them. Destroying companies and nothing happens to them. In other countries, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. When you go into other countries, even if you mean well, even if you're not doing anything wrong, if you're viewed as a threat in any way, shape, or form, simply put, the threat is eliminated. And we have to stop waiting for the news to come from the media, from the New York Post, and from Israel Times, and from channel Arut 7, Arut 7. And we have to make the news, Rabotai. We have to make the news. Each person that's a leader, a rabbi, a businessman, a political leader, has to do everything they can, especially if you're located in Nigeria. The closer you are, the better. But even if you're located in New York or you're located in California, you have to make some type of contact, some type of effort to get these boys out of there. Because the longer they're there, the bigger the life risk and the more likely the life risk is. And this, Rabotai, is simply an appeal to you, for me personally. Make every effort that you can. Now, some people that have contacted today, Baruch Hashem, jumped on the bandwagon and said, listen, we're doing everything we can. I said, yeah, so do more than you can. Do more than you can. Or other people said, yeah, we're praying. I said, I'm sorry, praying is not enough. Why? When Am Yisrael was put in a circumstance that they've never seen before, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Egypt, out of slavery, out of agony, out of a Holocaust the world has never seen before. Not before and not after. HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Egypt. We arrived at Yam Suf, the Sea of Reeds. No one knows how to swim. We've been slaves. We've in a desert. But we have an ocean that seems to never end in front of us. On the right, there are anacondas and scorpions the size of humans, according to the Midrash. On the left, anacondas and scorpions bigger than humans. Behind us, the entire army, with all of their weapons and all of their gold and all of their diamonds and all of their zealousness and ego, looking to kill us from Egypt. No longer looking for slaves, simply looking to kill. Am Yisrael does not know what to do. Going right or left, simply everyone's going to die, or most people. Going back, not an option, everyone's going to die. Going front, everyone's going to jump. Everybody starts crying. Am Yisrael starts crying. Moshe Rabbeinu starts crying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everybody's crying. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Mati tzak elai. What are you screaming to me for? Move forward. What do you mean? Who else am I going to scream to? Should I scream to Paro? Should I scream to the sea? Should I scream to the scorpions and the anacondas? Who should I scream to? HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us over there, Rabotai, sometimes it's a time to pray. But sometimes prayer is not enough. Sometimes you have to act. You have to do something. Move forward, he told Moshe Rabbeinu. Take some type of initiative to show me you believe in me. Show me that you trust in me. Show me that you know that I'm going to be the one that fights your wars. Move forward. Whatever choice of impossibility you go to, just know that you're doing it in my name. Am Yisrael goes into the ocean. HaKadosh Baruch Hu splits the ocean after. Nachshon ben Aminadav, the head of the tribe of Yehudah, is the first one to go into the sea. Starts drowning himself. The water is covering his nose, but he has 100% emunah, has faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu that Hashem is going to fight the war for him. Even if that war is a supernatural war. It's a physical war. It's something that doesn't make any sense. He says, go forward. I'm going to listen to Hashem, literally. He said, forward, I'm going forward. That's what he did. Everyone else saw him. They followed. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, that's exactly what I was looking for. And he splits the ocean into 12 different tunnels, one for each tribe. Rabotai Yekarim, right now is not a time to read New York Post articles and New York Times and Twitter tweets and all of that stuff. Right now is a time to get yourself, your community, your leaders, your politicians, your rabbis, your rich people, whoever you have that's an influencer, to reach out to the Nigerian government, to write letters and do whatever is possible to get them to understand this is simply a misunderstanding. It's a mistake. Rudy and his team simply did not know what they were getting into, did not know that they're going to be targeted as people that are part of the enemy, even though they have nothing to do with the political situation. They were just looking for Jewish people that they could document and record and put on some YouTube video. That's it. It's literally entertainment. They're looking for entertainment, to provide entertainment, and instead they got themselves into a life risk because they put their faces into a political battle. Into a battle where some people don't care about death. We have to understand, it's not our business. We have to get our people out there. Our dear friends that already live in the community, are struggling enough. There's simply no reason for us to think that we know what's going on over there, that we can decide for them what's right and wrong, and try to right the world, and try to give the Nigerian government some advice of what they should do with their own political situation. It's not our business. Their government, their issues, not our problem. Our problem is one of our own, where three of our own are in a life danger. And we need to do whatever we can to get them out of there. For all of the rabbis and all of the leaders that are working behind the scenes, chazakim ubuchim, but this is a time you need to get to the front of the scenes also. Do whatever you can. I've told all my contacts, I've been on the phone constantly with messages everywhere. Baruch Hashem, a lot of people are trying to do whatever they can, but I told them, use my name, Baruch Hashem, if you need me to write a letter on their behalf to the Nigerian government or to whoever else that needs an explanation, to vouch for these boys, to allow them to be freed from the prison. Please use my name. Let me know what to write and who to write. BeEzrat HaShem will do it. We have Baruch Hashem the support of some of the biggest rabbis in the world. Baruch Hashem, we just got a letter from another two Gdolei Ador. One of them is the head of Edouard, one of the biggest rabbis in Edouard, one of the face of Edouard, Reuven Zakaim, wrote us a 2-page letter of support, Baruch Hashem, for all of our work. And if that wasn't enough, we also have the head rabbi of the world today, Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef Shichyeh, wrote us a full-page letter of support. These are just some highlights of certain things that I liked about the letter. It was just a copy of my letter. He just, Baruch Hashem, wrote us a letter of support for all of our work, for everything that we do. Baruch Hashem, very interesting letter. Baruch Hashem will work on it to translate it to English and publicize it. Baruch Hashem, we have Arav Yaakov Zamir, we have Arav Eliyahu Ben Chaim, Arav Gidon Ben Moshe. Many of the Gdolim have supported our work, know exactly what we're looking to do, what we're trying to do, and what we're achieving. And the key, Rabotai Karim, is we're going to try to even get them and all of the others to also write letters on behalf of Rudy, on behalf of the rest of the guys that are with him, to simply get them out of this political battle, get them out of this issue. And I simply am pleading with you, with each and every single one of you, to not just sit there idly doing nothing. Contact somebody, call somebody, do something. Even if that something begins by sharing this video, that's a nice start, but it's not enough. You have to get somebody to do something to get these boys out of there, BeEzrat HaShem, before Shabbat. Before Shabbat. So it doesn't get into a new political battle and a prisoner strategy of exchange of some kind. And the longer these things continue, the more of a nightmare this is for everybody. And we have to understand that this is a very, very sensitive issue. Don't start criticizing any governments. Don't start telling people what you think of them. Simple. Some of our own went to a place apparently without enough information, enough knowledge of what they're getting themselves into. It's a mistake. They were mistaken to be somebody that they're not. Sorry. Let us go. We're going to go back to our house. You go back to your house. We're going to go back to our life. You go back to your life. The end. As if it never happened. As if it never happened. That's the ultimate and the best solution that it could be. The sooner, the better. Your local rabbi, politician, businessman, whoever. The closer they are to Nigeria, the better. But also, even if you're far, please, I beg each and every single one of you, all of my dear friends and students in Nigeria, there are Baruch Hashem, hundreds and hundreds of you, thousands of you, that are watching my shiurim, please do something. I know that it's a nightmare for you already. It's a difficult situation for you already. And don't rely on somebody else doing it. Everybody knows somebody. And don't just wait for the Jewish guy to help you. Ask the non-Jew too. If he's a decent non-Jew that's not looking to kill Jews for fun, contact them too. Contact whoever you can that can potentially help this situation. Because they're foreigners, the issue is much worse than if it would be a local. The sensitivity is much greater. Don't wait for the Israeli government to get involved. Don't wait for the American government to be involved. Don't wait for anybody to be involved. Do something yourself. So at least maybe the chip that you put on the table, that's going to be the winner. We don't know what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to decide of what's going to be the winner. But if we show unity and care for each other at this time, Rabotai Karim, that is true Ahavat Yisrael. We don't necessarily have to agree with each other on every single thing. And as you all know, I've even made a couple of videos against the ideological and religious beliefs, mostly the religious beliefs of Rudy Rochman. I don't agree with him at all, but he's still one of us. I still love him like I do one of my kids, one of my brothers. And the reality is, Rabotai, we need them out of there as soon as possible. As soon as possible. Once he comes home, we continue the disagreements, public and private and so on. But just because you disagree with someone doesn't mean you want death for them. This is never a personal battle, and that's one of the things that I want to explain to each and every single one of you. Because I've said it before, but time and time again, I see people either miss that lecture or misunderstand. Every single person that we expose, whether it's a Manis Friedman or Ephraim Goldberg or the most recent Asher Meza and Moshe Otero and Dror Kasuto and on and whoever else is on the list, these are people we disagree with in the harshest terms and in the most extraordinary way. Most extraordinary possible way of disagreement. We believe they have literally, in some cases, a completely different belief that's antithetical to ours, to the extent where we believe their belief is an enemy of ours. But yet, this is something based on their beliefs, on their acts, on their ideas. It has nothing to do with them personally. We don't want them to die, chas v'shalom. We don't want any harm to happen to them physically of any kind. We simply want them to stop, want them to change, want them to do tshuva, stop misleading people, stop misteaching people. That's all we want. We don't focus on their personal issues, if they're fat, if they're ugly, if they're missing teeth, if they have too many teeth, if they're old, if they're young, if they're tall, if they're short, if they're divorced, if they're married, none of that stuff matters to me. As you notice, I generally don't talk about that stuff. I try not to make fun of them personally. Why? It doesn't matter. It doesn't serve any value for me to make fun of them personally, and it has nothing to do with the disagreement. And quite frankly, I don't hate them personally. It has nothing to do with their personalities. But nonetheless, we will forcefully fight for the sake of the honor of the Torah until the end. One thing does not contradict the other. We're fighting for the sake of the Torah, for the honor of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They are our spiritual enemy in some aspects. But nonetheless, we're still part of the same people. We're still part of the same people, and there's still a way to help them or their followers or both do tshuva. Them dying or something bad happening to them doesn't help our cause. Doesn't help their people, doesn't help anybody. The idea is for them to do tshuva. But when it comes to situations like this, where one of them, one of us, is in danger in the hands of the non-Jews, everything is put on hold. Everything is put on hold. Just like Shabbat is the most critical foundation of the Torah. Without Shabbat, there is no Judaism. A Jew that violates Shabbat on purpose, drives on Shabbat, whether he's driving to the synagogue or he's driving to the store, doesn't make a difference. According to the Torah, in 12 places, according to the Rambam, in at least 7 places, the Gemara in many other places, the Zohar, the Poskim, the Shulchan Aruch, everyone agrees across the board, a Jew that violates Shabbat on purpose is considered 100% an idol worshipper. An idol worshipper that at the time of the Sanhedrin would get a death penalty of the worst kind. Skila, stoning. Thrown off a building, 2 stories, and then after that a boulder rolling over him, and then thrown rock. Horrible, disaster, nightmare. This obviously does not exist anymore because we don't have a Sanhedrin, but nonetheless, he's still viewed spiritually as an idol worshipper. You cannot use him as a witness in a Jewish ceremony, you cannot count him in minyan, and so on and so forth. But, despite the magnitude of this sin, if there is a life risk, if a woman is about to give birth, if someone is sick, got a heart attack, or there's a life risk on Shabbat and you have to take somebody to the hospital, Shabbat, with all of its grandeur, with all of its majesty and so on, is put on hold. Is put on hold, and now there is a new mitzvah. And that mitzvah is to save that Jew's life. To save that Jew's life. And by the way, even for a non-Jew, you're allowed to violate Shabbat. Even for a non-Jew, if you're a doctor, you're allowed to violate Shabbat for the sake of a non-Jew. Why? Because it's a two-way street. If we don't help their people, they're not going to help our people, if they're the doctors and so on. So the Torah allows us to put Shabbat, and actually commands us to put Shabbat on hold for the sake of a life risk. After the life risk is out of the way, we've saved this person, BeEzrat HaShem, Shabbat turns back on immediately. We don't have to get permission for Shabbat to get turned back on. Shabbat automatically gets turned back on, and that's it. And you're no longer allowed to violate Shabbat anymore. So we see here, Rabotai, that at a time of, let's call it normalcy, we could debate, we could disagree, we could even call out each other about the mistakes that we're making. For the sake of the honor of the Torah, nothing personal. Simply, someone's making a mistake, misleading others, as long as they're not literally doing it in a way of the missionaries and so on, we are obligated to fight these people for the sake of the honor of the Torah. But the moment there is a danger, a life risk, everything is on hold. We have to pray for them, and we have to act in order to fulfill a new mitzvah of pidyon shvuim, releasing the prisoners, to get them out of the life risk that they're in. This, Rabotai, is a critical lesson in Judaism. Because although HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hand is in everything, HaKadosh Baruch Hu also wants to know what we're going to do. He's the one that's going to decide what's going to happen here. He's the one that put Rudy and his friends in prison, and he's the one that's going to decide when to release them, BeEzrat HaShem. The question is, do we want to be the vessel that influences Hashem's decision to do it? If we unite at such a time, then we're going to be utilizing the Torah in the right way, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to see, at least when it comes to that, they're united, then Hashem can act. Then Hashem can soften the hearts of the people and make their eyes see the truth, that these young guys have nothing to do with the political situation that's there. They're not the enemy, they're not anything. They're simply looking to make a YouTube video for entertainment. That's it. You don't want them to? Let them out of the prison, let them out of the country. They'll pay their own way back home. It's like the eagle that flew through the sky. When it flew, you saw him, and it was extraordinary, and it looked really bigger than life. But in reality, the moment he left, it's as if he was never there. Why? It's just air. Same thing. Same thing with Rudy and his friends. Right now, it looks like this is probably a tick in the government's, head right now. They don't. The last thing they want is another problem, a political issue, all types of issues. Last thing anybody wants is this. But nonetheless, they have to protect themselves. So this is not a threat. This is not a person that's involved in anything to do with the political issues that are happening in your government. Please release them, and they'll simply be like the air. Just like the air. It looks like an eagle, but I promise you it's not. It's just a young kid, has ambitions, perhaps a little bit uninformed or a lot uninformed about what Judaism really is. And the reality is, has a good heart and means well. Rabotai, please, I beg you, all of my friends, all of my students, all of the Talmidei Chachamim that are watching this, all of the rabbis that are watching this, all of the politicians and the businessmen watching this from all over the world, I plead with you to please do something. Don't act there and just cry to Hashem. It's not enough. Don't just sit there and say, oh, okay, somebody else is going to do it. You have to do it. Please. These guys are in danger, and the danger is greater than we can imagine. Only the hand of HaKadosh Baruch Hu can free them. Nothing else. We have to entice HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we have to entice Hashem to do it. But not do it later. Do it now. Do it before Shabbat. The sooner, the better. These boys would even be allowed to fly on Shabbat just to get out of that country. Why? Because Pikuach Nefesh. For them, not for all the people that are living there. For them themselves, it's 100% Pikuach Nefesh. So please, if you have any questions, you want a letter from me, you want a letter from any other rabbis, anything I can do to help, 24 hours a day, Baruch Hashem. For the rest of you, as a side note, before you start your questions, just ask you a small favor. I know that a lot of you, Baruch Hashem, are watching my shiurim and are enjoying them and are growing, and Baruch Hashem, it's thousands and thousands of people every day. Hundreds of people are sending questions every single day. I know I haven't answered the questions on the app because I'm burdened with hundreds and hundreds of questions on the WhatsApp every day and email and everywhere else. But BeEzrat HaShem, I'll go back to the app. Some of you may be watching this right now on our new feature, which we're trying out for the first time. It's the live lecture on our app, not just on Facebook. So BeEzrat HaShem, if everything works well today, we'll continue doing the live both on the app, the BeEzrat HaShem app, and on Facebook. So BeEzrat HaShem, this will continue. So everybody that has kosher phones and doesn't want to have the influence of Facebook and things like that can now watch our lectures on the app, or you could actually watch it on our website, tikkunabrit.org. You go to tikkunabrit.org on your desktop or computer, whatever it is. You'll see on the top of the website, your own Rabbi, your own Reuven live. You'll press it and you'll be watching this lecture live. Or starting next week, you'll also be able to watch it live on BH Live. BH.live. B as in BeEzrat, H as in Hashem, .live. Live. There's another website that we have that will be specifically catered for the live feature. So for all of the people that want to watch it live, please do. The other thing is, for some of you, since the amount of people that are watching the shiurim is growing drastically, and the amount of people that are benefiting from them is growing drastically, I ask all of you for just a simple favor, just a small, tiny little favor. Don't give me unnecessary work. I beg you. Don't give me unnecessary work. Don't ask me questions and you can get the answer on your own, by simply a Google search or simply by opening a book to and see what things are. I'm more than happy to answer all questions if you've at least tried to find the answer. If you at least tried, or don't ask me to get back to you at a specific time or make a phone call. Simply just be a little considerate. I'm barely sleeping 3 hours a day, and it's just trying to meet the demand that's out there. Have a little bit of mercy on me. Don't just don't send me a message asking me how are you. Please. I'm okay. I'm alive. That's perfectly fine. Don't ask me how I am. Don't look for me to call you to chit-chat. And don't ask me to respond to you on a specific time frame. I simply beg you, I have so much to do, so many things that you guys don't know about. Life issues, life-threatening issues. Situations like Rudy is not the only one. It's not the only one. It's not the only situation. There's just too many pressing issues. Even rabbis that are calling me asking for a time to talk, I tell them I don't have the time. I don't have the time to do it. I don't have time for personal chit-chat. I don't have time to develop relationships. I don't have time to do any of that stuff. I have time for emergency. That's what I have. I deal with emergencies. I'm 911. That's what I am. I'm an international 911. You have an emergency, I'll try to help in the best way I can. Poverty, issues, life risk, health, all that stuff, I try to help the best that I can. If I know somebody, if I can help in any way, I do it. Basic other stuff, marriage issues, help, no problem. Children, no problem. All that other stuff, I help. I'm more than happy to. But if you can do things on your own, or you have somebody locally that can help you, please do. But most importantly, do not ask me to do things at specific times according to your schedule. Don't ask me to call you. Don't ask to chit-chat with me. I'm begging you. Please be considerate. Because I have this thing in my head. I'm a little bit obsessive about it, where if I see a message, I have to address it. I have to address it. Even if it's, how are you? Okay. So these things take time. You have 500, 1,000, 2,000 messages like this asking you, how are you? Every day. What's the name of the shiur? Just go to the channel and see what the name of the shiur is. Please, I'm begging you to be considerate, because it's just taking a lot of time, and I'd rather spend that time helping people like Rudy, helping people like Ayla, helping people like some of the other wonderful people that are in very, very serious risk right now, serious problems right now, and not telling you that I'm doing fine. Not telling you thank you. If you donated, if you did something good for us, automatically know I appreciate it. And more than that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu appreciates it. That's more than enough. Don't wait for me to give you an email. Don't wait for me to send you some glorified postcard. I don't have the time. I don't have the time. Maybe one day HaKadosh Baruch Hu will merit me to have some more assistants. We already have 70 employees and I still don't have a single assistant. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be done, and simply not enough. Not enough people, not enough manpower, not enough money, not enough a lot of things. Please, don't ask for unnecessary time. It's. I know that it seems ridiculous that I'm asking for this, but I promise you, some of this waste of time could cost lives. That's why I'm saying it. At the same exact time, I'm talking about literally a life risk. You have to be considerate. The world does not revolve around your own personal issues. If your issue is critical, and I need to address it, I'm more than happy to. Doesn't matter where you are and how you are and whether you donate or you don't donate. More than happy to help. But if it's silly stuff, please, be considerate. With that being said, Rabotai, I'm going to start looking at your questions. After I take a little bit of a drink here with tea, water, and soda. I have a little station here, and we'll start addressing some of your questions. David is asking, are self-winding wristwatches kosher to wear and charge on Shabbat? Yes, if it's not based on a battery, then yes, you're allowed to wear it. You're actually also allowed to wear a digital watch. If you look at the Yalkut Yosef Ilchot Shabbat, I believe it's in the volume 2. You'll see that you're allowed to both wear a digital watch and an analog watch on Shabbat, no problem. Leora is asking, is it true that we should not blow out candles? What's the proper way to put out the candle of Havdalah? Very, very good question. Yes, it is true. Rav Mutzapi Sheikhye said that there is a very dear mistake that people make with their Havdalah candles, where they take the Havdalah candle that's lit and they put it out with the wine that they just drank from the Havdalah, they take some of the wine and they pour it in a plate, and then they turn off the candle with that. Rav Mutzapi, which is one of the Gedolei Ador, one of the Talmidim Muvhakim of Rav Tzion Abba Shaul, he said this is desecration of the wine. Desecration of the wine, of the Kiddush wine that you just blessed. Now you're using it to turn off candles. It's completely a desecration of the wine. It's not a good way to do things. Now, at the same token, blowing out the candle with air is also not appropriate. So what do? Best thing to do, clap on top of the wine. If you have kids, this is very entertaining. You can have everybody clap from wherever they are. Not everybody come on top of the fire, because that could, somebody could hit the actual candle. But this is what we do in our home. Our custom is everybody sits in their seats, my little kids, my wife, Baruch Hashem, and Havdalah comes after a nice little ceremony, a little bit of blessings and song and so on. We get to the part of the candle, and we clap. I obviously am on top of the candle. I clap on top of the candle. We keep clapping until the candle is out. And then I tell the kids, you did it. And, everybody argues about who actually turned off the candles. And that's it. It's a fun little thing. But nonetheless, that's the best way to do it. That's the best way to do it. And not to blow out the candle with air. It's not a birthday cake. Not that that's our custom anyway. And not to to turn off the candles with the wine, which is a desecration of the wine. To turn off the fire of the Havdalah candle with a clapping of some kind. That's the best way. As far as the candles of Shabbat or candles of Chanukah, you just let them burn out, meaning they use up all the oil, all the wax of the candle, whatever you're using, until they burn out. Simple. Until they burn out, that's what you got to do. That's it. There's really no other candles you need to turn off. Robert is asking, to me it's clear that social isolation is the best way to stay away from wicked people. However, when it pertains to children, there are studies showing negative effects in behavior, mental health, and character development. How can a family positively implement the words of the great Vilna Gaon? To be completely isolated from the world is not the advice of the Gaon of Vilna, but rather to choose your friends wisely. If you have young boys, young girls, those kids are eventually going to go to school. The boy's going to go to yeshiva. In that yeshiva, he's going to socialize with other kids. Now, if some of those kids are very good kids, then perhaps you'll have one or two of them study with them at your house or at their house or whatever it is. And that's the same thing with the girls. Same thing with the girls. They're going to go to school. They're going to meet somebody that's a decent human being. You agree with the way they are living a similar lifestyle to you. They have the same ideology and so on. And the kid will make friends in school. Now, for people that are homeschooling their kids, especially if they're Noahides, and they're homeschooling their kids, there's no yeshiva for them, what do? Similar, you choose your friends wisely. Have somebody that that is your kid doesn't need 500 friends. One friend is already more than enough. One friend that's normal, comes from a decent family, and they can see each other however so often, once a week, once a month, whatever you want, once every couple of weeks, whatever it is, depending on the kid, depending on the people. Some people need more, some people need less. It definitely does not need to be every single day or even close to it, but the occasional socializing is perfectly normal and healthy for kids and necessary for kids. But there is one other thing that perhaps a lot of young parents don't take into consideration, which is the best friend that you could ever give your kid is a sibling, a brother or a sister. Get your kid a brother. Get your kid a sister. That's the best friend you could ever have. And you can say, yeah, but she's already 2 years old, and the other one is a baby. How is she going to play? Don't worry. It's a little bit of time. They'll be playing more than you can even handle. The best friends are siblings. Those are the best friends. And once in a while, you bring somebody from the outside. That's it. If your kids have siblings, quite frankly, they don't need friends from the outside. But sometimes you have some friends from the outside. If, let's say, you have, a house full of girls and one boy, obviously you need that boy needs to get some other boy to play with, not just play with girls that are his sisters. Same concept otherwise. If there's a bunch of boys and you only have one girl, she needs to have another female to play with. But you have to be very selective with friends. To be completely isolated from society is not what the Gaon Vilna is saying, but rather to be extremely selective with who you allow into your life, and to not just allow your kids to roam into the streets and just find their own friends wherever they may find them. Don't do that. Be very involved in your kids' life and your kids' choices, because one of the things about kids is that they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know that what they don't know is dangerous. This is similar to these young boys in Nigeria right now. They're so young and immature in certain aspects of their life, although I'm sure they've achieved some good things in their life and they've done some wonderful things and they want to do wonderful things and so on. Again, putting all of our ideological and religious beliefs aside, surely they've achieved certain things in their lives, and I'm not disrespecting that, but nonetheless, there is a part of Rudy, at least, I don't know the other guys, that is very, very naive and immature. Very naive and immature, and in essence, this is part of the problem. So you have to know that what you don't know is not only something that you don't know, but rather it's something that what you don't know can be dangerous. Can be dangerous. So you as parents have to know that. What your kid doesn't know, sometimes is harmless, sometimes it's dangerous. And therefore you have to be involved in the choices and decisions of your kids as much as you possibly can. And at the same token, keep somewhat of a distance so they don't feel like you're like hawking their life and they can't live. But you have to be as involved as possible with your kids, especially the young ones. Charlie's asking, when Moshe and the nation of Israel left Egypt, didn't they have lots of spoils with them, including kosher eating animals? And if so, why couldn't they eat them during the 40 years in the wilderness instead of having to rely on manna? Well, a couple of things. Number one, to slaughter an animal, it sounds easy, but it's not. Number two, to make it kosher is a process of itself. Sounds easy because we buy things in Western society from the supermarket. It comes in a little styrofoam with a bag on it. Looks like it was born that way. It's a process. It takes a little while. There's a whole system that takes place. Now, to go do that for one family, let's say if you wanted to make your own kosher meat, you found yourself a rabbi to do it and slaughter and so on, it's not necessarily impossible. To go do that for a nation of millions, that means that you have to have cattle that's multiple the size of the people. Because if you simply take the cattle that you have and you decide you're going to eat the cattle, you're going to eat all the cows, you're going to eat the sheep, whatever you're going to eat, within a week or two, that's it. You're finished. You have no more sheep. Why? Because you ate it. You ate it. Now, you're going to say, yeah, but it reproduces. It doesn't reproduce anywhere near fast enough as how much we eat. Simple, especially when you have a nation of millions. One sheep, whether you want to eat the whole thing or not, that's it. Once in a while, you can't just take a little steak from the sheep and let them go run around. Once you decide to eat that sheep, that's the end of the life and production of that sheep. So literally, within a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they would have simply ate all of their sheep. That's number one. Second reason is, the Gemara says, in the name of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu decide to feed Am Yisrael manna? Why? They say, well, manna showed them miracles where the manna was completely consumed by their blood. Completely consumed in their body and turned into blood. Meaning that for 40 years, Am Yisrael never had to go to the bathroom. There was no section for bathroom section. There was no filth because the Shekhinah was always there. There can't be filth or anything like that. No one had to go to the bathroom for 40 years because the entire manna, unlike your steak, your chicken, your spaghetti, and whatever else people eat, that stuff, some of it turns to blood. Most of it is waste. That's just the reality of life. That's the way things are. We keep some of the nutrients, the rest of it is wasted. The manna 100% of it turned into blood. 100% of it turned into blood. So nobody had to go to the bathroom. So this is a miracle. This is a miracle. So that's one reason. Okay. Gemara also says it also was a tool to help people do tshuva. How are they going to do tshuva? Because the manna would arrive close to the people, this is Masechet Yoma, based on how righteous the person was. If the person was a tzaddik, the manna would land right next to their tent, right next to their door. Somewhere in the middle, they have to go get it around, at the end of the block. If they were wicked, you have to go over the hill and get it. Go find your lot. Go find your allotment. And everybody had a way of finding their food. But also, it would be embarrassing. Oh, what are you doing? I'm looking for the manna. Oh, you're Rasha then. If you're looking for the manna, you're Rasha. Because if you were tzaddik, the manna was already right outside your door. That's number one. Number two, also, the way the manna arrived was 3 different ways. If it was something that you could just take it and eat it right away, that meant you were really righteous. It was already delicious in any flavor that you want, Baruch HaShem. If it came in a form of a cake, or if it came in something that you had to cook a little bit, then you're in the middle ground. If it's something you had to work on seriously, that means you're a Rasha. So it's also a tool to tell people their spiritual status. In essence, the manna was a spiritual mirror, because people are delusional. Everybody thinks that they're more righteous than they are. Some people even think they're Mashiach. I even have at least once or twice a week somebody else telling me they're Mashiach, and I tell them, how could you be Mashiach? I'm Mashiach, you're Mashiach, he's Mashiach, everybody's Mashiach. How could you be Mashiach? It's like the old joke where somebody goes into a mental institution and says, hey, guys, just wanted to let you know, I'm here, I'm God. One of the other guys punches him in the face. He said, hey, what'd you do that for? He says, in this place, I'm God. So there's always crazy people. There's always crazy people, but the reality is the manna was a tool that Hashem had to eliminate all the craziness that people have in their mind, thinking that they're more righteous than they are, by simply showing you how righteous you are based on where the manna was and what status it was in. Whether it was like a cake and you could eat it and it could turn into any flavor that you want, or you have to cook it, and so on and so forth. But last but not least, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says it was a tool to build emunah in Hashem. Why? If HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have given us the manna like a pill, where you could just simply eat it and you're not hungry for the next year or for the next 40 years, what would happen? Am Yisrael would forget about Hashem. Why? When do we think about Hashem most? When it comes to parnasah, comes to money, when it comes to sustenance, when we're hungry. That's when we go to Hashem. That's where there's a mitzvah in the book of Deuteronomy, where Hashem says, don't forget, after Hashem gives you all the prosperity, don't forget Hashem. Why would there be a mitzvah in the Torah that says that after I give you all the prosperity that you want, don't forget me? Because that's what happens. That's our nature. That is our nature. The more Hashem gives us, unfortunately, the more likely we are to forget Him. Unless we already remember Him to begin with. And as He's giving us, we acknowledge Him even more and more. But generally speaking, the more success a person gets in the world, the more likely they are to fall for the trap of the Satan and forget who gave them that success. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, since they don't know if I'm going to give them the manna tomorrow, they don't know if I'm going to give it to them the next day, every day is going to be a new manna. So everybody had to pray for parnasah every day. Every day they would pray because they didn't know whether Hashem is going to give them the manna again the next day. Even though they got it for a year straight, who says He's going to give it to them again the next day? Especially since yesterday it came over here, but last week I had to go look for it. And the week after it's over here. So every day it changed based on the spiritual status of people. So it was a tool for Am Yisrael to stay connected to Hashem and also build emunah in Hashem. That's not something that you can get from eating cows. That's not something that you can get from eating sheep or chickens or anything else. That's also why Kadosh Baruch Hu was angry at Am Yisrael when they asked for meat. And He gave them this bird, and He said, I'm going to give you the meat, and then you're going to eat this meat so much, it's going to come out of your noses. And He punished them, and literally, people died from this meat because they ate so much, they got punished with it. He said, I'm giving you the best food in the world. It's a food that's not only physically healthy, it's spiritually healthy, and it also is a tool for you to connect to me through the food, and you want something else, and not only that, you're insulting my food. So Hashem was very angry at Am Yisrael. It's one of the things that is in our 10 remembrances that we're supposed to repeat every day, of how Am Yisrael complained about the manna. Complained about the manna even though it's the best possible food that ever existed. So that's the key, because there's unlike every other regular food, the food, again I forgot the mic, hopefully you guys heard me when I was talking the whole time. Unlike the other food, the manna is a tool to help Am Yisrael do TeShuva. Okay, next is it a sin to overeat? Yes. Yes, if a person overeats and there's no legitimate purpose to it, it's marbe basar marbe rima. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says that if a person their life is based on food, where they're constantly eating and everything is about eating, there's a punishment for it. What's the punishment? That more worms are going to eat them. It's going to be more painful after they die. Mishnah in Pirkei Avot. Renee is asking, during the beatings of the grave, Renee is asking this question. During the beatings of the grave, I have some wonderful students. During the beatings of the grave, at one point, an angel brings the deceased's parents and tells him or her to hit them if they're responsible for his or her sins, and not leading them on the right derech. What does the angel bring if the deceased is a convert? I imagine his or our parents would not be accountable for not teaching their child Torah, since they are not Jewish and the person wasn't Jewish at the time. Sure. So if the person is a convert, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is his mother and his father, and therefore there is no parents that Hashem is going to bring that person, because their biological mother and father are not at fault for their sins in Judaism, unless they are, because generally speaking, if a person converts, part of their new life is to somewhat disconnect from their past, including from their parents and their brothers and sisters. They can still maintain somewhat of a relationship, but the more righteous a person is, the more they are disconnected from their life before they were a convert, because there's less and less in common. You're a serious Jew who learns Torah every day. You're building a home of Torah. What does the former idol-worshipping father have to do with your life? Maybe in the beginning you maintain a relationship, but after a little while, there's very, very little in common. So the influence from them deteriorates more and more over time, if at all. So they can't be punished for a person that is decided that they're going to make sins as a Jew now, because it's not their fault. On the other hand, if they did not connect and they were the influence, then it could be that the biological parents would be punished also, or somebody else that's punished. But nonetheless, what the Chachamim are saying over there is, as the parents are brought in front of the person, it's just one of many different things. One of many, many different things that happens. It's not necessarily a necessity of things that happen. It is a possibility and a likelihood even, because usually the biggest influences on a person's life is their parents. Usually a kid is bad because his parents are bad. That's most common. It's not as common to have righteous parents and wicked kids. It happens, but it's not common. So the Chachamim are telling you this is one of the possibilities. Just like, for example, on the issue of kafakela. The kafakela that everybody knows about, that's in the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, in the last chapter, I believe it's page 154. It's in the book of Samuel's 1, chapter 25, verse 29. Kafakela is the one that Avigail tells David HaMelech is the slingshot that a person gets for doing certain sins. But through Baruch Hashem, my learning about the topic, I discovered from my Rav that there are 10 different types of kafakela. There are 10 different types. There's even a kafakela inside Gehenom. So again, on the basic surface of things, when they're talking about it in the Masechet Shabbat, where one angel flings to another angel, one end of the world to the other end of the world, that's one of the possibilities of happens to a person for doing certain things and so on. But that's not all the possibilities. To discover all of the other possibilities, you have to delve in other places. The same concept with this particular issue of the beatings of the grave. The issue with the parents is one of the possibilities, but not necessarily the only possibility or a certainty. It all depends on where the bad influence came from. A very good question, and chazakah u'bucha. Avraham is asking, a Jew has been keeping the brit for a while, although came to a point where the desire for pornography and girls has vanished. Do I still get a reward for keeping the brit? Absolutely. Every single time that you would have otherwise wasted seed, you get a huge mitzvah for it, 100%. Even though you don't have the desire for pornography and immorality as much or at all, you're still getting a mitzvah. But nonetheless, remember, you still have to get married, and you'll have to also keep family purity. And don't think for a moment that the test is gone. It's just that it's put on hold, and the Satan sometimes just waits for a person around the block with something else. Even Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes almost fell for immorality, where the Satan himself came to them as the most beautiful woman in existence and enticed them, and they almost fell. And the Satan just wanted to show them that there is no apotropos for the arayot. There's no person that's over this particular issue. No one is has that desire eliminated altogether. Everyone can fall for it. So you want to show them that as righteous as they were, as much Torah as they were, if it was permitted in Shamayim, the Satan would be allowed to make them fail. And he actually told Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes, you're lucky that in Shamayim they say, don't harm Rabbi Meir, his Torah is very valuable to us. Because if they didn't, just for you thinking that you could be with me as the woman, he tells him, the Satan tells Rabbi Meir, just for thinking that I could slaughter you like a sheep, he tells him. Mamash, scary Gemara. So the point is that right now, Baruch Hashem, the test for you is on a silent mode. Stay strong. Don't think for a moment that you're strong enough. Continue getting stronger. Get married. Continue protecting your eyes. And BeEzrat HaShem, you'll continue succeeding. Many times people get full of themselves and think that they've overcome this particular issue. The Yetzer Hara for this is gone. And that's exactly when the Satan comes and slaughters them to pieces. So that's usually what the Satan wants. He wants a person to think. He wants the person to think that this sin is gone from their vocabulary. It's a complete trap. This happens in war. In war, one of the things that a good general, a good army does is make the enemy think that they're weak. Make the enemy think that they're weak or unprepared. And that's usually how the smart generals in war and so on end up having the ability to ambush the unexpected and arrogant enemy. Allow the enemy to get arrogant and overly comfortable in their situation, where they're more lax and less careful, and they end up destroying them as a result of it. This is a constant repetition in history, and nonetheless in the Jewish world. So the Satan wants you to feel comfortable to the point where you think that you don't need to learn about Tikkun HaBrit anymore. You don't need to be so careful about your eyes anymore, because that's exactly when he's going to come with a completely new trick that's so powerful. By the time you realize you fail, you're already in a seventh level of Gehenom. So don't think for a moment the test is gone. Stay strong. What is the importance of Melaveh Malka after Shabbat dinner, and is it customary in our days? Melaveh Malka is the fourth meal. It's the fourth meal that comes after Shabbat. Where is this Melaveh Malka come from? The Chachamim teach us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to David HaMelech, and told him, your time is going to come, and you're going to die on a Shabbat. You're going to die on a Shabbat. And David HaMelech cried to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and said, why? Why would I want to die on Shabbat? Please don't take me on Shabbat, because I'll be muktzeh. I'll be, they'll have to wait and this. Why don't you just take me on a Friday? Take me on a Friday before Shabbat. Which, by the way, there's a very big ma'alah for somebody to die on Friday, because someone who dies on Friday and is buried on Friday before Shabbat, if they were righteous, which usually this is what happens to righteous people, not always, but nonetheless, it's a special gift from Shemaim for people that do certain things during their whole life. Hashem takes them on Friday and has people bury them on Friday before Shabbat. This eliminates the whole Chibut HaKever. They skip Chibut HaKever. So that's a very big thing. So David HaMelech wanted to die on Friday. But Hashem says, no, I can't, because your Torah is so valuable to me that if I take you on Friday, that means that you're going to study one less day in the world of Torah. And your Torah is worth more than all the sacrifices that your son Shlomo HaMelech is ever going to give me. So that's how valuable your Torah is. So David HaMelech said, okay, so take me on Sunday. Hashem says, I'm sorry, I can't do that either. Why? Because it was already decreed when your kinghood will begin and when it will end, and when your son's kinghood will begin and when it will end. Already decreed. If you die on Sunday, that means that your kinghood will continue for an extra day, and your son will be one less day. That cannot be. That's not, the world of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is very precise. So David HaMelech said, okay, so, the only thing I can do is to make sure the Satan stays away from me on Shabbat. How can I protect myself from the Satan? Satan cannot touch me if I'm studying Torah. Cannot touch me if I'm studying Torah. That's why it says in the Midrash Rabbah, in book of Deuteronomy, the last chapter, in Midrash Rabbah, or you go into Avot Rabbi Natan, also talks about the death of Moshe Rabbeinu. The Satan, Hashem wanted to appease Moshe Rabbeinu and send him to Satan. Go take Moshe Rabbeinu's neshama. And the Satan came to Moshe Rabbeinu while he's learning Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu looks at the Satan and says, what do you want? And the Satan says to him, I came here to take your neshama. Moshe Rabbeinu rebukes him because you chutzpan, you obnoxious person, you have the nerve to even come next to me when I'm learning Torah, and not only that, have the chutzpah to think you could take my neshama. Get out of here. And he scared him away because he had Moshe Rabbeinu had the staff with the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu on it. There was something out of this world, if you will. And Hashem kept sending the Satan back to Moshe Rabbeinu to appease him, to show him how much he loves him, that even the Satan can't take him. So at the last time the Satan came, Moshe Rabbeinu got so upset with him, he started hitting him, and he took out some of his eyes. Some of the Satan's eyes, to the point where Satan ran away completely, didn't come back. And then eventually HaKadosh Baruch Hu, after a whole dialogue that's discussed in the Midrash Rabbah, back and forth, eventually Hashem took Moshe Rabbeinu's neshama himself. But with David HaMelech also knew that just like Moshe Rabbeinu, Satan can't touch him if he's learning Torah. So every Shabbat, David HaMelech would study the whole time, non-stop Torah. Non-stop Torah, praying Torah, never go to sleep. So Satan, it was time to take the David HaMelech, but how could I take him if he's learning Torah? I can't touch him. He's fire. He's spiritual fire. So what did Satan do? The Satan made a big ruckus outside on a tree outside while making noise. So David HaMelech got up and went to check who's outside. And as soon as he got up and he started going down the stairs, his mind got off the Torah for a moment, and at that moment, the Satan took away one of the steps and took his neshama. So the Chachamim ask, if David HaMelech was so righteous that he learned Torah non-stop, how could the Satan even get him off of his learning Torah by simply making noise outside? What, every time there was noise outside, David HaMelech got up to see what is going on? No. David HaMelech was Kodesh Kodashim. Why did David HaMelech go outside, get up? Because he heard someone breaking a tree. So he thought someone is desecrating Shabbat. So he went outside to go rebuke them. But even though he was on the way to go rebuke them, his mind escaped the Torah for a moment, and that's the only moment that Satan needed to take his neshama. So now, what does this have all to do with Belavim Malka? This was a whole process until the Satan succeeded. Every Shabbat, David HaMelech, if he survived the Shabbat, when he survived the Shabbat, he would celebrate. How would he celebrate that he survived the Shabbat? Because he knew he had to die on Shabbat. Not on Motzei Shabbat, on Shabbat itself. So as soon as he survived the whole Shabbat, he celebrated. And what did he celebrate with? A big festive meal, Melaveh Malka. And for that, it became a custom among Am Yisrael to have a fourth meal, to celebrate the Shabbat and continue the celebration of Shabbat, that we survived, that David HaMelech survived. BeEzrat HaShem, the Mashiach Tzidkenu is going to come. That Mashiach, Ben Yosef is going to survive, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of meaning to it, but nonetheless, it started. The source of it is David HaMelech celebrating that he survived the Shabbat, but we continue it already for 3,000 years in the same concept. That's Melaveh Malka. Good question. Batya is asking, I'm so glad Rabbi Reuven is doing stuff the Rabbi is one. Oh, Baruch HaShem. Thank you. Can you say the names of the boys again? I said it again. I said it's Rudy, Rochman, Andrew, Noam, Leibman, and Edouard, David, Benaym. I may be mispronouncing it. But I'm sure you can find it on the internet. Okay, Dennis is asking, hi Rabbi, when we encounter a woman that is bubbly like Shlomit, saying hi, waving hands to every man, and this woman is also immodest in clothing, how should a man react to this? Can saying hi back encourage Shlomit-like behavior and make her appreciate more attention from men? Cannot saying hi back and ignoring her be not nice and offend her? Should men be courteous and do the thank you, you're welcome, good morning with immodest women? Is it the same conclusion for modest women? What's the responsibility on the side of men as far as handling immodesty in women that are not their wife at all? The Mishnah in Avot says that a person should never speak to a woman too much, and that's even referring to his wife. Needless to say, somebody else's wife. Needless to say, an immodest woman. So first and foremost, usually people say hi to people that they've made contact with, either physical contact or eye contact. If you're not looking at the immodest woman, she's not going to say hi to you. She's not going to say hi to your back. She's not going to say hi to the top of your head. Usually there's eye contact. So if you weren't looking at her, she wouldn't be saying hi to you. So if you see that there is somebody in the coming distance that's that you're gonna cross, that's immodest, that's especially if they're a bubbly person, then get yourself busy looking at the ground, get a book, look at your phone, whatever it is. Don't look at them. And if they say hi, just wave and or you can say move your head and that's it, or say hi and move. But you don't need to necessarily say, hey, hi, how you doing? How are you? You don't have to do that. Just say quick hi or acknowledgement of their hi. That's it. Whether they think you're nice or not doesn't really make much of a difference. You don't need to be bubbly in order for you to be righteous. You don't have to say hi to them if you don't want to. You don't have to be mean to them. You don't have to throw rocks at them or anything like that. But you don't need to say hi to people. There's no obligation to do it. Even more so if they're immodest and they're bubbly and they're people that are looking for attention. So all of that, 90% of your question is It's based on your behavior. If you're getting people to constantly say hi to you, especially immodest women are saying hi to you, it's because of you, not because of them. They're saying hi to you because you're acknowledging them already, you're looking at them already, you're in touch with them already, and therefore they feel comfortable with you and they want to constantly stay in touch with you. But if you're a person that is protecting their eyes and is simply not involved in their world, they're simply going to move on to the next customer. And trust me when I tell you, they'll find it. So that's the thing when it comes to that. As far as handling modest women, same way. You don't need to say hi to every modest woman or any modest woman at all. There's simply no need for it. There's no obligation for it unless you need to associate with this person, modest or immodest, meaning they're a bank teller and you're asking them for you to give the money, or you give them money, whatever it is, or they're at the store, or they're somebody that you have to encounter in some way. Now, if they're a person that's behind a counter, or they're your customer, you can simply acknowledge their existence. Hello, thank you, the end. Don't start developing a whole dialogue. What'd you do this weekend? Where do your sons go to camp? And where do you vacation? None of that stuff is necessary. Simple. Keep it short and sweet and just get to the bottom line. What do you want? The end. That's the thing. Now, as far as people say, oh yeah, but that's not nice. Okay, it's not nice. Let it not be nice. Who's defining nice? I want to go to heaven. I don't want to go to Benaym. That's nice. To me, heaven sounds nicer than Benaym. And all of those nice people, they're not nice. They have a self-interest. They want to commit sins. That's nice people. So again, no need to be nasty to people. Say thank you, say you're welcome, say hello, and so on, but keep it short and simple, and eliminate any type of chemistry being developed. No chemistry whatsoever. Don't have dialogue with people and so on. This is not an easy thing to do if you're constantly with people. You're constantly talking to people, and that's why if you know for sure that there is, let's say for example, a female that you have to encounter at a store or at a thing, try to have your wife do it. Like one of the things that we do, for example, if we order something and the person needs our attention there, let's say if we order food or whatever it is, my wife, God bless her, she protects me. So she says, who's at the door? If she sees it's a female, doesn't matter if she's a female that's modest, not modest, if she's Amalek or if she's Yaakov. It don't make a difference. She sees a female, she answers the door. She sees a male, sometimes I'll answer the door. Simple. That's the end. Why? That's just the way it is. You have to watch each other's back. You should watch each other's back. Same thing if we walk around. If she sees some female that's coming that's that's immodest, immediately she tells me, don't look right, don't look left. So simply I start looking to the other direction. That's it. So you try to help each other. And that's for married people. And especially because this is also protecting the marriage. But if a person is single, he doesn't have anybody to help him with these things, then he has to simply eliminate any type of chemistry being developed. You could be cordial with people, you could be sincere with people, but don't be friendly to the point where you're now exchanging phone numbers and you're text messaging each other, how you doing? That's where it becomes a problem. That's where adultery begins and Benaym opens. Let's see. Let me see. Let's see. Daniel is asking, Rabbi, I'm 30 years old. I'm still single. Okay, BeEzrat HaShem, you get married soon. Is it worth to keep looking for a wife since the world is about to come to an end? Who told you the world's about to come to an end? Or should I focus on working, getting closer to Hashem before Mashiach arrives? Okay, Daniel, no one knows when the world is going to end. Even though sometimes you'll hear a speaker say, listen, the end is near. It doesn't necessarily mean that they think the end is going to come tomorrow. And even if they say that, they're simply saying, they're speculating. No one knows when the end is going to come. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu specifically made sure that we don't know when the end is going to be. Why? Because if we knew when the end is going to be, that would remove our free choice. And we would start living our life very differently than we would live, normally. What HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us is to fulfill the Torah to the best of our ability every single day. As if this is the last day, as if this is the most important day, as if this is another day. Each one of us is obligated to fulfill the mitzvot each day. You have to pray, you have to learn Torah, you have to eat kosher food, you have to give tzedakah and so on and so forth every day. You have to do the best that you can. Now, if you're doing all of the good things that you're doing, and the Mashiach ends up arriving tomorrow or next week or next year or in 10 years from now, it doesn't really make much of a difference. Why? Because you were prepared every day, because you did your best every single day. But if you live your life as if the world is going to end next week, then what if it doesn't end? Then what ends up happening is that not only did you not fulfill a lot of mitzvot because of that, such as getting married, having children, studying a certain amount of Torah, living life like a normal person, but on top of that, you'll be disappointed that you were wrong. And that disappointment can cause you to lose your connection to Hashem. That's why there's the Rambam writes in the Igeret Teman, in a letter that he wrote to Jews of Yemen, that some of the most destructive people that ever lived were the false messiahs. Surely the worst one among them is Yeshua Nutzri, Jesus of Nazareth, but also there was Shabtai. He doesn't mention Shabtai Tzvi, he mentions others, but there was a whole book about false messiahs, and one of them was Shabtai Tzvi, the guy Frank after him, and so on and so forth. But the Rambam writes of different false messiahs that were during his life. During his life, that each and every single one of them, he writes this in details of the, you could read I'm sure you can find it on the internet or buy a book. That's the letter called Igeret Teman. It's the letter that Rambam wrote to the Jews of Yemen. It's a very long letter. And he tells them a whole thing about different messiahs that either he witnessed or his father witnessed and fought against and so on. And he says the common denominator among all of these false messiahs is that it always ends in a disaster. Either this false messiah convinces everybody to waste all their money, give him all their money, or go borrow one of them during the time of the Rambam got the Jews to borrow a bunch of money from the Goyim and use it for different things, and they ended up putting everybody in in harm's way because they couldn't pay it back, and now the Goyim started killing them because of that. Another one led them to the wrong place. It was always a disaster. Literally, one of them, they revolted against the government. The government started killing a bunch of them. So all of these false messiahs always end in a disaster. Don't live your life as if, listen, the world is going to end next week, I should just prepare for the end. No. Live your life as you're fulfilling the entire Torah today. The best that you possibly can. Whatever mitzvah is in front of you, that's the one that you do. If you could learn today, you learn today. You could pray today, you pray today. Give tzedakah today, you give tzedakah today. If you can eat, you eat kosher. If you could find a wife, that's what you do. You have kids, you have kids. You have to. The Torah is there as an instruction for life, not instructions for Mashiach. not instructions for death. It's instructions for life. Hashem gave us the Torah to live by it, not to die by it. So you have to fulfill the Torah based on life being there. When Mashiach comes. Now, of course, the world is heating up, and it is definitely messianic times. It's troubling times, but that does not put us in a situation where we don't need to fulfill the Torah. We still have to fulfill the Torah. If you're a single man, one of the things you have to do is go find yourself a wife. A nice, righteous wife that's going to build a Torah home with you, perhaps even give you some good kids. They're going to fulfill the Torah. You have yourself a continuation. In fact, one of the things for that young woman that asked earlier about Chibut HaKever, the punishments of what happened in the grave, a person that dies, a Jew that dies without sons, wow, what a punishment he gets. What a punishment he gets. And he could have had sons. Not that he tried and Hashem simply didn't give him sons. A person that was able to get married, was healthy, and even had a wife, but simply decided not to try, didn't want to have kids, didn't want to have any more sons, what a punishment that person gets for not having sons. Hashem yishmor v'yatzil. People think that you only get punished for violating Shabbat and wasting seed. People don't understand how precise the judgment is in Shamayim. So do not, under any condition, miss out on a mitzvah that you can do. Do whatever you can to fulfill it. You're a young man, you have the whole world in front of you, you need your other half. Whatever Torah that you're learning is not a complete Torah without having a wife. You have to find yourself a wife, a good, righteous wife, do the best that you can. BeEzrat HaShem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will send it to you. Once you have a wife, BeEzrat HaShem, do your best to have kids. Once you have kids, BeEzrat HaShem, make sure that you have shlom bayit, you educate those kids, you give them a good Torah education, and so on and so forth. Prepare your life that way. Do tshuva every day that way. That way you are prepared for the time of Mashiach. But to think that preparing for Mashiach, it can be done in any other way, is delusional thinking. And it's wrong thinking, it's not Torah thinking. People are saying, oh no, I'm going to go move to Israel because Mashiach is coming soon, or I'm going to go build myself a bunker because Mashiach is coming soon. That's not the way to prepare for Mashiach. To prepare for Mashiach is to do complete tshuva and fulfill all of the possible mitzvot that are in your hand. That's the way to prepare for Mashiach. Nikolai is asking, why did the sages accept the bat kol of Hillel versus Shammai, but not the bat kol of Rabbi Eliezer versus the Chachamim? Well, in essence, the bat kol of Hillel was not necessarily what paskin the halacha. It was like more of like an asmachta. They already agreed with Hillel that halacha goes by Hillel in this world, and halacha goes by Shammai in the next world. And the reason why is because they knew that people simply could not survive if halacha was like Bet Shammai in every place, because it was simply, we were spiritually too weak. We are spiritually too weak to observe the mitzvot in this world based on Bet Shammai. But the halacha is like Bet Shammai in the next world. Out of all of the machlokets that Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel had, the overwhelming majority were paskin like Bet Hillel. It's not that Bet Hillel is always right and Bet Shammai is always wrong. It's that Bet Hillel is more appropriate for this world, and Bet Shammai is more appropriate to a spiritually elevated status that we would have in the next world. I think only in 5 or 7 places halacha is like Bet Shammai. Over 300 places, it's Bet Hillel. As far as the bat kol of Rabbi Eliezer versus the Chachamim, is that they did not want to accept the bat kol of Rabbi Eliezer ben Holkinos, because if they would have accepted it, then they would have been viewed as if there are 2 Torahs. The Torah of Rabbi Eliezer and the Torah of the rest of Am Yisrael, and it would have created a disaster. That's also why they put him on cherem, on nidui, after that whole machloket. So the point is, it was a very different circumstance. But a very good question. Todah for the Havdalah, Baruch HaShem. Good. Is a child produced from a rape born as tshuva for past life punishment? A child that's born from a rape, obviously it definitely has to do something with their previous life. There's a reason why a child comes to the world in such a way. There's also a reason why Hashem chooses specific souls to be abortions. If a person had abortion, then one of the ways that Hashem is going to punish them is by them being themselves an abortion. Same concept as if somebody comes from rape. Surely this has to do with their previous life's actions. Exactly what it is, obviously only Hashem knows, but we could speculate that they were involved in rape in some way or something similar to it and so on. But surely this is there is a connection to their previous life. Hashem doesn't do anything for nothing. Yosef is asking, good question. I thought using wine was a good way. Oh, okay, Baruch Hashem. Rabbi, are the 12 steps kosher? The 12 steps program that is made by the Goyim is, overall the theology is okay, but the problem is that much of it is connected to Christianity. So there is a rabbi, Talmid Chacham, that I know, that he has the kosher 12 steps. The kosher 12 steps, it's in essence the same theology, but it's based on kosher teachings. And I would recommend you go to him, you go to his teachings, and not to the 12 steps of the Christian world, because many times it's connected to idolatry, to Christianity, and it's very, very problematic. The rabbi that I'm talking about that does the 12 steps is a Rabbi Israel Burns. You just look him up on the internet, Rabbi Israel Burns, and you'll see that he has a very interesting program where he teaches about the 12 steps, but in a kosher fashion. Jack is asking, Shalom Rabbi, why don't the heretics ever admit that they're wrong when they know they are wrong? I see time and time over how stubborn they are to admit it, because plus they have no shame at all. Well, that's the thing. The Gemara says that Reshaim, even al pnei Gehenom, lo osim tshuva. Real wicked people, even at the gate of Gehenom, do not do tshuva. Comes the Yavitz and says, how come it says that the Reshaim don't do tshuva even at the gate of Gehenom? Because inside Gehenom, everybody does tshuva. At the gate, you still think that you're strong. Maybe you get yourself out of there by convincing people with your slick tongue. But in reality, inside Gehenom, everybody does tshuva. Now, the Reshaim, unfortunately, even when they're proven wrong, it is almost impossible for them to admit that they are wrong without doing tshuva, because the admission of them being wrong is showing that, number one, they're humbling themselves. Number two, they are misteaching people. Number three, they are prone to mistakes. Number four, their overall entire ideology is fundamentally unsound. In essence, the building they built out of straw is collapsing. It's not. They can't just admit that they made one mistake. They have to literally admit that their entire premise is wrong. And for somebody to do that has to be a complete tshuva, which is very difficult, if not impossible. Just look at Korach. Korach was a prophet. Korach was a tzaddik until he went astray. Initially, Korach was a really righteous person, a really good person, a really extraordinary person. He was one of the Gedolei Hador. But his wife motivated him to look at things the wrong way. After he came home, after one of the sessions where Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu to have all of the Leviim shave their body, their hair everywhere, and he came home without a beard, without hair, and his wife started making fun of him. Now initially he told her, yeah, but even Moshe Rabbeinu did it to himself and to his brothers, not just me. She said, he's just making fun of you, he was jealous of your beard, he was jealous of your looks, he was jealous of this, and initially it didn't bother Korach. But then after she kept picking on him, Korach started being influenced by his wife, and before you know it, he started seeing other things that are wrong about Moshe, and before you know it, he went to town against Moshe, started creating things, and it became a personal battle. Now, even after he realized, wait a minute, this story I just said about the woman that Moshe Rabbeinu, he took so much from her, she died. It's a completely fake story. There was no story like this. He knew it's false, but he said, yeah, but I have a bigger message. I have a bigger cause. It's worth it to have some collateral damage in order to give the greater good to people, because he thought he himself is the greater good. And the reality is, all of the heretics, all of the Reshaim think that they are the greater good, and that's actually what our very dear Rabbi Tzak Yosef wrote us in the letter. And when he discussed the wars that we'd fight, and he's supporting all the wars that we fight against the heretics, and he says that these Reshaim, these wicked people, what do they all have in common? What do they all say? They go against the Gdolei Ador. They go against the biggest sages. They go against the biggest rabbis that are tzaddikim, thinking that they're in the same level, even though they're not even the equivalent of their smallest pinky. That's actually what he writes in my letter over here that he wrote from Baruch HaShem. And he says, each one of them says, no, I'm going to lead. This Gdol Ador, this big rabbis, the Rambam, the Rabbi Yosef Karo, Rav Wasserman, Chafetz Chaim, Rav Ovadia. No, none of them know. I'm the only one that knows how Judaism is. Every one of them thinks that way. Everyone thinks that way. That's why none of them teach anything that's remotely close to what the Masoret is. Even Manis Friedman, he says, oh yeah, we teach Hasidut. What he teaches has nothing to do with Hasidut. I learned Hasidut, Baruch Hashem. What he teaches has nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. It's completely 100% his own delusional mentality. And the same concept as everybody else. They'll say the name of some rabbi. They'll say the name of some sage, but they're not saying what they said. Like, for example, Asher Meza, because he's so arrogant and he seems so confident, when he talks, it's almost, people think that what he's saying is 100% right. So he says, I don't think the Rambam never said that. So when he says it with such confidence, the audience, which are ignorant themselves, doesn't check. But anyone that knows the Rambam knows that he's either ignorant or he's a complete liar, or both. Because in almost every lecture that he mentions the Rambam or Poskim, he's wrong almost 90% of the time. But he says it with such arrogance that no one questions it, no one double checks it. He says Rambam never mentions anything about wasting seed being murder. 100% a lie. In TeShuva, Rambam said it specifically that wasting seed is murder. He says a lot of things, and it's constantly wrong. But because he says it with such confidence, the ignorant audience doesn't check, doesn't know where to check, and they rely on somebody that has a title of a rabbi. So for a person like that, that's already has so much arrogance and is misleading people, for him to admit that everything he's ever told them is a complete lie, it's wrong, it's a mistake, he's not reliable, he's not a good source, he has to become virtually Moshe Rabbeinu to do such a thing. It's possible, but not very likely. Not very likely. So why don't they do it? Because, for this very same reason why they do it. They do it because they want to lead. They want to start a new religion. They want to start a new cult. They want, like Rabbi Tzak Yosef says, they want to be Anim Loch. I'm going to lead. I'm going to be the king. That's what Asher Meza is trying to do. He likes all of these groups and so on. He likes Proud Boys. He's part of Proud Boys. He's proud of the Freemasons. He's proud of Gehenom. He's proud of he's part of everything. He's part of everything. Why? In essence, what he's trying to do is he's trying to create his own thing. He's trying to create his own version of Jews, his own version of humans, not very different than the preliminary strategy of Hitler with the Aryan movement. This is the ego. This is where ego goes. This is where ego goes. You think that your way, your strategy is the best way, but you pretend like you're open to other people's suggestions. You pretend like you are in dialogue with other people and so on. It's all nonsense, all fake news, and it's all part of their overall strategy to manipulate people to where they want them to be. And for them to abandon this whole strategy requires literally some type of divine intervention. They have to do complete tshuva, because it's not just admitting that they're wrong about one lecture or one statement. They have to admit that their entire philosophy is a lie. Their entire understanding of the Torah is a lie. All of their teachings need to be deleted. All of the new teachings have to constantly mention that they made a mistake. Now, this has happened, but generally by righteous people. What example do we have of that? The book Sharet Tshuva. Sharet Tshuva is one of the most important Musar books that exist. It was written about 800 years ago by Rabbeinu Yonah. Rabbeinu Yonah of Girondi was one of the family members of the Ramban, Nachmanides. Rabbeinu Yonah was one of the leaders of the people that went against the Rambam, Maimonides. He went against the Rambam because they misunderstood some of his work and they burned his books. But then Rabbeinu Yonah saw that it was a mistake when he saw that the Christians started burning Jewish books also, and he said, this is not from Hashem. This is not from Hashem. Hashem doesn't want us to burn Jewish books. If he's having the Goyim burn our books, that means that what we did, burning the Rambam's books, was not for the sake of Hashem, it was for the sake of our own ego. We misunderstood, and he started learning more and more of what the Rambam did and said, and he realized that not only was the Rambam right, the Rambam is the Gdol Ador. He's the biggest rabbi in the world. And he's the biggest posek that lived from the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. Mi Moshe ad Moshe lo kam ke Moshe. There was nobody like Moshe. So now, how do I fix this? He burned his books in public. He publicized a bad name against the Rambam. What did he do? He spent the rest of his life, over 20, 30 more years, going from community to community, advertising his mistake that he went against the Rambam, saying, I made a mistake, the Rambam is right, I am wrong, the Rambam is Gdol Ador, he's a tzaddik, I was wrong, and he literally goes over every community, because he didn't know how far the message went. So he had to go from community to community just to make sure that there's no community that is within his reach, that perhaps there's still somebody that still believes the false teachings that he did. And based on all of his personal experience, he wrote the book Sharet Tshuva, meaning that the book Sharet Tshuva is Rabbeinu Yonah's own tshuva for the mistake that he made against the Rambam. So that means that, yes, somebody can do tshuva, but, for making a big mistake, but is it common? Not necessarily as common for people that are misteaching people for so many years, like Asher Meza and the rest of the people on the list. Let's see. Why doesn't the Rav make an official petition that we can share? Okay, BeEzrat HaShem, we'll make some type of thing. But again, like I said, all of these, vote for this if you're against this, and vote for that if you're against that. I personally don't believe so much in those things. I think that this is a time to act. People need to make phone calls, send emails, send messages to different people that are in a position of power. To connect with the Nigerian government and plead for these young boys. To just get a million people to say, I love Rudy and his friends, please free them. If I was the Nigerian president, I'd simply delete it. Just the little delete button in every keyboard, delete, the end. And if I was his assistant, I wouldn't even bring it to him, because I know that my job would be to be deleted if I'm the assistant. So those petitions, I don't think they help anybody in the world. But we can do it for you guys for entertainment purposes if you like. I just don't think it's going to serve any value. I think that the most important petition is to give you guys the message that each one of you needs to send messages to somebody. One person, 5 people, 10 people, somebody that can do something. Even if that somebody is yourself. Arya is asking, going back to the watch question, is a self-winding watch that recharges itself from the energy of the movement of the hand also permitted? Yes. Yeah. It's permitted. Jose is asking, what is the best way for Noahides to get a shidduch in the middle of all this immodesty? The best way to get a shidduch in general is for somebody to refer you to that person. Somebody that knows you, that cares about you, has a basic understanding of what you're looking for, to recommend somebody else that they know that have a similar ideology. That's the best thing to do in both the Jewish world and the non-Jewish world. And in essence, that's what a shatchan is supposed to do in the Jewish world. Unfortunately, because many of them do it for money, it's many times they'll recommend just anybody they can get. And there's unfortunately a lot of problems where they lie to people just to get the shidduch done so they can get the wedding, so they can get the money. So you have to obviously take everything with a grain of salt and understand that you can't just assume anything. But nonetheless, if you have a family or a friend, somebody that cares about you, that knows somebody else that's also looking to get married, that also has a similar ideology than you, they recommend it to you. And of course, if you don't know now, pray for it. That's the best way. The best way has always been throughout all of history for marriage to be recommended. I mean, people want to call it arranged. Oh, his father arranged her marriage, her mother arranged her marriage. There's no arranged marriage. People simply want their kids to marry each other. If they know that their kid is good and they know that your kid is good, they want the kids to marry because they know they'll be more likely to be happy. The arranged marriage, or how they call it in the world, is the best marriage. Why? Because two people with similar ideologies and goals want their kids that also have similar ideologies and goals to be together. And that's why you see that the divorce rate was virtually non-existent in the past. Today, where people meet their next wife or their next husband at some pub or nightclub or at work or at in the streets, you see where that ends. That simply ends in a divorce. Why? Because she looked good, from far, but she was far from good. And he looked generous until the bill came. And that's just the reality. People think that it's better to meet people on their own, in their own way, and what ends up happening is they either marry bad people that don't have the same ideology because they're not even caring about their ideology. They just care about their body, and they care about physical and lust and all types of filthy things, which all goes away at some point, even without old age. Simply is the more people are lustful, the more they desire for more, and the less likely they are to be satiated with what they have. Even if what they have is the dream for somebody else, for them it becomes a nightmare. And that's just the reality. And that's why you see that the celebrities that are very, very beautiful and attractive and so on, they, each one of them, have 5, 6, 7, 8 divorces. It's a nightmare. And unfortunately, this has infiltrated the Jewish world as well. You have some men and women in the Jewish world consider themselves religious, but they get divorced like they, like they change underwear. It's complete disaster, and it becomes questionable whether these people are simply promiscuous, but they're using the Torah to shield that promiscuity. Because how could it be that you can't get along with any wife? How could you be that you can't get along with any husband 5, 6, 7 times? There's something wrong. So if a person looks the right way, in the right places, asks the right questions, and gets the right answers, and does all of those things, they should have enough siyata dishmaya to stay married, for a long time. But when a person is very selfish, self-centered, and they're only looking for their own self, their own self, it's unfortunately it's already a failure at the beginning. It's already a failure at the beginning. So, and sometimes the beginning is the shidduch, sometimes the beginning is the day they got married. But either way, it's a failure. So the way to find the best shidduch, the best wife, the best husband, is first and foremost work on yourself to make yourself as best as you possibly can. And in the process of making yourself the best, look for somebody else that has a similar ideology that's also looking to become the best they possibly can as far as serving Hashem. And have somebody that, tell your family or friends or somebody that you know, even if that's a professional, you have to pay them. Tell them this is what you're looking for. You're looking for a person that does this, this, and this. And, and have certain things that you're not willing to bend, and have certain things that you are willing to bend. Meaning there are certain things that you have to be flexible with, and there are certain things that you can't be flexible with. And so you have to let those people know what you're willing to be flexible with and what things you're not flexible with, because no one is going to fit your exact recipe. And you're not going to fit anybody else's exact recipe. So you have to be flexible with certain things, but there are certain things you simply can't. You can't be flexible with. But if you stand your ground, you do the best that you can to be the best that you can. The Gemara in Masechet Sotah, page 2a says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives the zivug to a person based on his actions. If he's righteous, Hashem gives him a modest woman. If he's wicked, Hashem gives him an immodest woman. Why? Because a modest woman is more likely to be righteous just like him, and an immodest woman is for sure wicked just like him. There is no such thing as a righteous, immodest woman. No such thing in the world. If she's immodest, by default, she's wicked. By default. Now, it doesn't mean she's a murderer. It doesn't mean that she is a pedophile. It doesn't mean that she steals everything she sees. But for sure, in the eyes of Hashem, she's wicked overall, and she does certain things that are wicked, and unfortunately, it's a very, very big problem for her and for society, and therefore, she has to do tshuva. And if you are looking for someone that's modest, go find someone that's modest. Don't look for somebody to become modest after you marry her. That's a complete disaster. That's a divorce waiting to happen, or a nightmare marriage, which the Gemara says is worse than Gehenom. There are certain things that are considered worse than Gehenom. Isha Ra'ah, a wicked woman, is one of them. Don't marry a wicked woman and look to change her. She's immodest, but you think that after you get married, she'll become modest. Babkis. If she's not modest by the time you know her, she's not going to be modest later on. Even if she says she will be, don't take the chance. Same thing with you ladies. If the guy is not keeping Shabbat, he's not learning Torah, at the time that you meet him, do not marry him based on the precept that maybe he will learn Torah and become a Shomer Shabbat after we get married. That is a divorce or a nightmare marriage waiting to happen. And it's simply a mistake. Don't marry people you want to change. Because if you want them to change, that means you want to marry somebody else. Marry somebody that you're already happy with how they are, and you want to grow together with them, not change. If you want them to change, go marry somebody that already changed. But if you want them to grow, that's something different. And a lot of times people confuse the two, and then marrying the wrong people, dating the wrong people, and then they cry to Hashem, oh, how come you gave me this bad woman? Oh, how come you gave me this bad wife? He didn't give you this bad wife. You chose it for yourself. You were looking for a supermodel, immodest prutzah, and you want to make her into Rachav, the tzadikah. But all you were left was the prutzah zona that has the entire football team on our speed dial. That's what you have because that's what you were looking for. Don't blame Hashem for that. You were looking for a prutzah. You weren't looking for a tzadikah, because when the tzadikah came to you from the shatcha and you said, no, she's not good looking enough for me. Oh, she's not good looking enough for you. You want to have some prutzah? Okay, you have the prutzah, and so did the whole football team. And that's what happens to people like that. Ivelet adam tesalef darko, ve'al Adonai iz'af libo. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to us, the stupidity of man causes him to go against Hashem, and then he gets mad at Hashem for punishing him. You are looking for a supermodel, not a tzadikah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you a supermodel, and a supermodel is also a zonah. So you got a supermodel, but you also got a zonah. What's the problem? What's the problem? You are looking for some rich guy. You got a rich guy. He's also an adulterer, and he has 5 other wives that he didn't tell you about. What? You wanted a rich guy? You got a rich guy, but he's also other things. Don't tell me you were looking for a tzaddik that learns Torah and has good midot. You are looking for money. You got money, but you also got an empty home. You also got a husband that's never home. You also got a husband that has other wives. You also got a husband that looks at everything that moves, and so on and so forth. So if you look for the right things, because you yourself are working to be the right thing, then you'll get the right thing. But if you don't look for it that way, then Hashem yishmor v'yatzil. Okay, guys, I am a little bit spent. Maybe one more question and we'll finish the night. Because I have another shiur in Hebrew coming up, BeEzrat HaShem. Andrew is asking, sometimes I can't seem to stay focused for an hour or 2 hours straight when studying Torah. I know I really want to do what I can do. So as far as see what's causing you to be distracted when you're learning Torah. Sometimes the phone is a distraction. So if you want to study Torah, turn off the phone and put it away. Put it in a drawer. Know that from this hour to that hour, no phone. Now, if it's not the phone, it's a computer. If it's not the computer, it's a something else. Remove all distractions. That's number one. Number two, let's say, for example, you look at the book and you're starting to think about other things. What does that mean? That means that you're not trying hard enough to learn what's in front of you. So you have to read it out loud, read it standing up, read it moving around, walk around with the book while you're reading it out loud. Sing the words that are in the book. Sing them. Sing the words of the book. Don't just look at the book and say, Moshe, no. Like, sing the words. Where when a person sings the words of the Torah, it helps memory, it helps excitement, it helps everything. And you stand up, move around, do something. Make it a thing. And that way you'll stay more focused. That way you'll stay with more excitement in your learning, and Be'ezrat HaShem, that way you'll grow. Okay, Rabotai, I am done. Okay, now he's about to ask. Okay, what happens if a neighbor knowingly and willingly wakes up his neighbor to make noise early in the morning, knowing that person kindly asks that person to be quiet, as he is not awake at those early hours? If he's on purpose to do it, then he's considered a thief. He's stealing the sleep of his friend. Rabbi Israel Misalant was one time late to the synagogue. And they asked him, Kvod Rav, how come you were late? He says, because I saw that the shingles on top of the roof of one of the neighbors was making noise. And I didn't want that to wake up everybody unnecessarily, so I climbed the roof and I fixed it. Not even his own roof, somebody else's roof. He saw it was making noise, going to wake up people, and it's going to cause damage, so he took it. Same thing happened with Rabbi Israel Misalant, where he saw one of the young people waking up extra early and walking over the other guys just to go start his day. Rabbi Israel Misalant rebuked him, even though he himself was already awake at that real early hour. He rebuked him. He says, why are you not careful making all this noise, washing your hands, doing this, doing that? Don't you realize that you're a thief? He says, thief, what did I do? I'm just trying to get up and go. He says, yeah, but you're making all that noise. You're stealing the sleep of all of your roommates, all your friends. Just because you want to do a mitzvah doesn't give you the permission to steal sleep from other people. So that's the same thing. So that means that neighbor X, that's knowingly and willingly wakes up his neighbor, he's going to go up to Shemayim thinking he's going to heaven, but they're going to have to dip him into a little bit of Gehenom. Why? He's a thief. He's a thief, and if that causes damage to the other person, whatever damage that lack of sleep causes the other person, he's going to have to pay for it. And if that means that person is not going to be focused, and because of that, he's going to miss the bus. Because of that, Chaz v'Shalom is going to get into a car accident. Because of that, he's going to have different troubles. All of that blood is on his hands. So it's a very stupid person that is doing that. It's a very spiteful person, but also very stupid. Rabotai, it's not worth it to be a wicked person. It's simply not worth it. The more you know, the more you realize it's not worth it. It's simply just not worth it. BeEzrat HaShem, people do tshuva, we do tshuva, BeEzrat HaShem. In a Chaim, if one gives charity or does a mitzvah and a merit, that something will happen. What happens with the merit of the charity after the goal of why you did it has been fulfilled in a mitzvah is still impacting the effect in the world? Well, all of the fruits of your mitzvah continue to give you reward. So let's say, for example, you decide to go donate $1,000 to BeEzrat HaShem so we could do kiruv, so we could help Am Yisrael and the world do tshuva, get closer to Hashem. In the merit of Rudy, in the merit of the rest of the crew to be saved and so on. You want to do a big mitzvah, donate to the Torah, donate for us to help other people do tshuva and yourself and everybody else, and you're going to do a mitzvah in the name of Rudy. Great, that's Chazak Baruch, fantastic mitzvah. Now BeEzrat HaShem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has mercy on us, and he releases all of these guys from prison. They're home to celebrate Shabbat, Ishtabach Shimon, right? But now your money is still invested. We're still able to do kiruv with it. Guess what? You planted the tree. You're benefiting from not just the tree, but all of the fruits that will ever come from this tree. Not just the first season that you were able to sell to make your money back and a little bit of profit. Every season, more fruits come from that tree. You take the fruit, you sell them in the market. The market goes up, you sell them in the market. More profit, more. And the best thing is, with the tree of Kiruv, you keep planting. It's not just one tree. That tree can turn into a forest. Why? You made one person do tshuva. That person is going to marry somebody. It's going to influence that person to do tshuva. They're going to have little kids, little tzaddikim, do tshuva and get closer to Hashem. Those kids have grandkids. Those kids have friends. Those parents have friends. They end up little by little building communities of righteous people. And Baruch Hashem, I have students that are already telling me how some of them literally have already started impacting their communities. I have one student from I don't know, when I first started 7 years ago or something like that, already became a rabbi, already is doing, helping people do tshuva and so on and so forth. A bunch of other students that are learning the Shas, teaching Gemara, teaching this. A lot of people are helping each other, not just as teachers, as parents, as educators, as simply good people. So what ends up happening is that seed that somebody planted initially to help us do, the work to get them to wake up is still paying off in infinite fold the original investor. So the same concept here like anything else. So it's obviously a good idea. Chazak Baruch for thinking of it. I should have thought of it myself, but Baruch Hashem, we thought about other things. So thank you again for learning with me to School of Mitzvot Rabot. For anyone that speaks Hebrew, we will have a shiur later on tonight. It'll be posted somewhere in Eastern time. It'll be posted probably around 6 o'clock in the morning and maybe 5. We'll see. BeEzrat HaShem. All right. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen ve'amen.